we're going to be hearing from Rich Potter, and he's going to be talking about multiple streams of income and how wholesale has been a big part of that for his business. Rich has been a part of Larry and my coaching team, and he now leads his own coaching team. He has his own coaching program. People come in for a few days and get some very intensive training from his team, and then they go and build amazing Amazon businesses as a result. So I'm going to ask you to help me welcome Rich to the stage with a big round of applause.
How's it going, guys? Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. As Sue said, I'm the guy that does the 4-day in-person out at my warehouse in Mesa, Arizona. We've been doing it for almost 2 years. We've had several dozen people come through, and it's been, in my opinion, it's been a massive success. So I'm trying to scan the audience to see if anybody here has been. Randy's out somewhere else. Okay, all right. There's several people here that have come out and participated, and a lot of them have been on the podcast afterwards, and so it's good to see the results that we're generating. I've been asked to speak about kind of my journey, how wholesale has been a part of that, and with the 4-day in-person, and I have to start first by recognizing this guy over here. Will you stand up? So this is Richard Clough, and I'm sorry if I'm moving a lot for the camera. I'll try to hold still. This is Richard Clough. He's my office manager. He is the most important guy in my business, honestly. Like, he is a rock star. One of the most common things, you can have a seat. Thanks, dude. I'm going to make him stand the whole time. One of the most common themes that we get in our feedback of our 4-day person is how amazing my team is. And the questions that we get is, how did I do that? How did I build that team? How did I find these people, hire them, teach them my methods, and get them locked in? And it's hard to kind of put that down on paper and express how we did that, but I'm going to try a little bit today to answer those questions as I discuss my journey. So the topic is really the key takeaways from my experience of building a strong wholesale business, how I've built several businesses along the way and now have over a dozen different income streams. How can one person, or I really should say 2 people, my wife's not here, I wish she was, Shelly has been a huge part of our success. She decided not to come this time. But how have the 2 of us built what we have? So I have not practiced this. I've put it together. I've given portions of this presentation and several sound bites. So hopefully it comes together for you. So hopefully I don't end up short at a half hour or don't run an hour and a half. But in any case, so Arnold Schwarzenegger was recently interviewed on a podcast, and he was asked, what's the easiest way to make money? And he said, well, the hardest part is that first $1 million. The easiest is the second million. So start with the second million. Right? How do you do that, right? The hardest part, in my opinion, is that first $100,000 a year business. Right? How do you do that? And then how do you replicate it to build that second $100,000 a year business? And then the $200,000 a year business. Like, that's for me the building blocks to getting to that million, right? But so I kind of wanted to get a feel for where everybody is in here. So if you don't mind, just a little class participation. Just like to know how long everybody's been selling on Amazon. So we own a photo booth, and in the photo booth business, the DJs like to play this little game. I don't know what they call it, how long have you been married game, right? So if you'll indulge me, if everybody will just stand up, we're going to play the how long you been selling on Amazon game. So if you've been selling on Amazon for less than a year, please sit down. Nice. If you've been selling on Amazon for less than 2 years, not too many, 3. Okay. If you've been selling for less than 5, sit down. That takes out quite a few. Okay, nice. Less than 6, 7, 8. I'm right at 7, by the way. We've been at 7. Wow, 9. Shoot, 10. Okay, nice. How long? 10 years. Okay, give him a hand. 10 years. That's awesome. I love it. That's great. Now, we're all in different phases. We've been selling for different lengths of time. We got different goals. My goal is to have a $12 million a year business. Right? Is Doyle here? No? Doyle Peck? Doyle Peck has got an amazing, if you guys get a chance to talk to him, I don't know, $25 million a year, like huge business. Mostly wholesale, little RA. My goal is to get to 12. We're hopefully going to push 4 this year. 3.5 is probably definitely achievable, but hoping to get 4. Everybody's got different goals. Like some people just want a little side income, right? Some people want to build something significant. About 4 or 5 months ago, I was approached by a company that wanted to buy my business. And so we engaged in that conversation for a little while. And we both mutually decided that it would be best for both of us if we reapproach that topic as I have doubled or tripled my business from where I am now. So I decided not to get out. They decided not to buy me. But that is also one of my goals, is to build a business with a structure in place that I can have a multiple 7-figure exit, kind of my retirement plan. So, and I know that's not everybody, right? A lot of people here are just trying to get that side income. $500, $1,000 a month is a fantastic place for a lot of people. So just with what I'm going to talk about today, it really is geared at how I built what I feel is sellable, what I feel is going to get me to where I want to go, right? So I want to talk about how I transitioned from running a side gig to being a business operator to an owner of multiple business, to the point where I own businesses, but I don't operate in them. And wholesale for me has been a huge part of that. So let's talk. Okay, so I threw this in late. With a lot of conversations I've had today, this wasn't originally part of my presentation, but was anybody here for my presentation last year? Perfect. Well, okay, if you, not very many. Perfect. So this was from my presentation last year. I wanted to talk about it real quick. The buy box. People, stop lowering your prices, right? Stop engaging in that race to the bottom. I don't know, but I don't know for you guys, but for the last 12 months, it has been probably the most challenging of my 7 years because of the race to the bottom, right? So let's just talk about the buy box real quick. Like, what is the purpose of the buy box? Really, it's Amazon's way of presenting the very best offer to their customer, right? And sometimes that's price, but it's not always price, right? So let's talk about what I think, and this isn't Bible. This is what I think personally. What are the 5 most important factors in getting the buy box, right? So for me, the number 1 is competitive price. It's not always lowest price though, guys. What our strategy and what our suggestion is and what we build into the rules of our repricer is most of the time we're going to match the lowest buy box price. There are times where we do a penny above or we do a percent above. We never do a penny below, percent above, or below. That engages in that war to the bottom, price war to the bottom. So don't do that. But you can get the buy box if you're matched or above. You can get the buy box at 1% above, 1 penny above. So don't be afraid to be above or at. Just don't be below, right? So don't undercut the FBA. I have a 2% FBA rule, and what I mean by that is if I feel if I'm within 2% of the lowest FBA price, I'm price competitive, and I'm going to get into the buy box. And that plays into number 2 and 3 as well. And I have a 10% FBA rule, or I'm sorry, a 10% FBM rule, where I feel if we are priced 10% above, we're mostly FBA, so if my FBA offer is priced 10% up to 10% above FBM, I am buy box eligible, right? I am price competitive and should get into the rotation versus the FBM sellers, okay? Number 2, fulfillment method. FBA obviously has the strongest strength, the most powerful method to get the buy box. Very important. Number 3, I really believe in this one, is inventory levels and inventory placement. So the example I like to use is we'll illustrate the audience here as, let's say you guys are the United States, right? And it's kind of inverted. So we'll say this side over here is California, West Coast, Washington. We got the Rockies here, we got the Midwest, we got the East Coast over here, right? So if Abe over here sends in a batch of inventory, let's say he only sends in like 5 units, and he looks like he's in maybe Oregon, right? So his inventory is going to go to Portland or the surrounding area. They might transfer 1 or 2 units to California. Maybe he gets 1 unit as far as Salt Lake or Nevada, right? But he's only sending in 5 units. Well, then over here, Richard gets into shop. He's trying to buy Abe's product. Well, he's way over here. So he's not going to see Abe in the buy box, right? He's going to see the sellers over here who have local inventory. Now, with that same analogy, if Abe sends in 20 units, it's going to get dispersed all over Amazon's distribution center. Inventory is going to come to the Midwest and the East Coast. And so now when Richard logs in to search for that product, Abe has got a fair chance of the buy box in every region, right? Provided that he's doing FBA, provided that his price is competitive, he's got a fair chance of that. So number 4 and number 5 kind of go hand in hand. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I really want to get to the rest of my presentation. Account health, seller rating. Got to keep your account health in good standing, your seller ratings 5 stars, get rid of those 1s and 2s and get that cleaned up. So again, you want to talk to me about this later, we can, but I just wanted to bring this up real quick. And as a bonus, I do believe when we're willing to spend money, give our money to Amazon for ad placement, they reward us with the buy box. So we can only spend money on PPC ads when we're in the buy box, and if none of the other competitive sellers are willing to spend that money, we're going to get an unfair advantage and get the buy box just a little bit more because we're willing to spend on ads. So that's my little soapbox about the buy box. So now let's move on to what I really wanted to talk about, my multiple streams of income journey. So 2007, I attended Arizona State University. Do you have any Sun Devils in here? None. Yeah? Nice. Go Devils. So I graduated Arizona State 2007 with a degree in business and communication. And I immediately went to work for a distributor of electronic components. I worked there for 12 years, from 2007 to 2019. So I have been full-time entrepreneur for 3 years now. Loved my job. It was an incredible job. While I was there, I went from Mr. College graduate to the #1 salesperson in my region for 5 straight years at the end. Like, they hated it when I left, but it was a good job, and they treated me well, and it really set me up to have success in wholesale because I really got to learn the distribution model and wholesale model, and it was good for me. So in 2014, my largest account got purchased by a company in India, and I was worried overnight that 65% of my commission was just going to disappear. They were going to outsource it to India, and I was going to see a lot of my income disappear. So out of necessity, my wife and I started discussing a business, a side venture. Like, we have to replace this in case it goes away. I got lucky, and in fact, they moved production from India to Mexico, and so my account tripled, right? So it went the opposite. So I benefited from that, but out of that fear of losing the income, we discovered the event business. And so in 2014, we launched our first photo booth company. We bought one photo booth in, November, I think, of 2014. Today, CandaPix Photo Booths has 3 photo booths, and I am selling the business to one of my employees next month. In December, my wife had the great idea of starting a bubble soccer business. You guys ever seen bubble soccer? It's those big bubbles you wear, you run around and crash into each other, knock each other over. It's a lot of fun. We started that, and actually Richard's going to buy that business and take that over here in a couple months. And then later, 2017, we started another photo booth that we'll kind of get into that a little bit. But so what did we learn from this? I learned that my time is more valuable than money. Right, so let me illustrate this. I mean, you can see here we've got 65 bubbles. We got 8 photo booths. Like, how can me and my wife manage that? We can't. Like, there's way more. So in this journey, 2014, we bought one booth, and we could rent it out for $500 a night. We'd have weddings, corporate parties, Fridays, Saturday nights, typically, right? So my maximum earning potential per year at 2 events for 8 months of the year, because in the summer in Arizona, if you guys ever been to Arizona in the summer, like, you don't go outside, right? From like July 1st to like mid-October, you don't go outside. So there's no events, no one's holding weddings, no one's doing nothing, right? So it's an 8-month of the year business, right? So my maximum earning potential with one photo booth was $32,000 if we did all of the work. It's not bad. As a side income, it's great. I can't live off of that, but it's not bad. So we started booking events like crazy. And what the mind shift I had at that point was, okay, this is awesome. We're making 100% of the money, but why don't let's hire someone. And so what we did is we bought a second photo booth in December, and we bought 12, I think it was 10 or 12 bubbles. I can't remember what it was. 10 or 12 bubbles, what I got here. So we bought 12 bubbles and started our bubble soccer business, right? And we hired 3 sets of employees to do all of our events. And what we figured out is I could run a $500 event. I could pay one employee to do $100 to do that event, and I got to keep $400. And I could do a second event now because I had an employee. I could hire an employee for that, charge $500, and I could keep $400. And then with my third employee, I could do bubble soccer, right? So now in 3 months' time, I was able to take my business from a maximum earning potential of $32,000 to where now my maximum earning potential with those 3 different sections, 2 photo booths, 1 bubble soccer setup, was $70,000 a year. And the great thing is I no longer had to do events, right? I didn't get to keep 100% of my income anymore. It was only about 75%, right? But my earning potential went up, and my actual personal labor involved went down, right? So now today, we oversee, it's been different since COVID. We haven't quite recovered from COVID. The last 2 years have been really tough on the event industry. 2019, we did 300 events. I personally did maybe 5% of that, maybe. I can go months without doing an event because I've got great employees in place that do that for me. So now, 8 photo booths, 65 bubbles. I've got a team of photo booth attendants. The event industry is coming back. Like I said, I do less than 5% of my events because of an amazing team that I put in place to do that. So in 2015, a year later, we started our Amazon business. I was on Facebook one night, and a buddy of mine had made a post that he did this big old private label program, and him and his brother were having all kinds of success with Amazon FBA, and I had no clue what FBA was at the time, and so I started watching this launch that he was talking about, and we ended up deciding not to do it, but that's the time we found the My Silent Team community, found the pack, and that's when we launched and started our event, or our Amazon business. So we did $45,000 the first 2 months in business at the end of 2015, grew to $350,000 a year, our first full year. Second year, we hit $1 million, and then we stagnated, right? So this is me and my wife doing it. This is me working full time. This is us running a photo booth business with employees, and we hit year 2 where we just stagnated. I would run purchase orders. I would find suppliers, and my wife did everything else. She was our prep center. During the day, she'd be home and she'd prep and pack and send it in. And sometimes in the evenings, we'd put the kids to bed and we'd sit there and we'd in front of the TV and we'd label and stuff like that. But she did all the shipments. And so we had our individual jobs, but we were completely maxed out. And then we decided to just take the leap and go ahead and go full time. Our event business was doing great. The Amazon business was doing great. And so we went from the occasional part-time employee working in the back room here and there 5-10 hours a week to let's go get a warehouse, let's hire Richard full-time, and I'm going to quit my job and let's go do it. So I kind of sprung this on Richard. He was doing events for me. He was doing a little bit of prep work for me, but we went and got a lease on the warehouse, and I put in my 4-month notice at work because they wanted me to stay for a long time, and I put him out to work all by himself for a few months. It was lonely, it says. But you can see what happened and so that was like right towards the end of 2018, right? Right towards the end of 2019, right? So we finished that year with a 10% growth because we had 6 months in the warehouse together, right? And so we ended that year growing at the back end. But then once we started building this team is when we started exploding. So we added Richard, and at the time it was me and him, and we both prepped, we both packed, we both did everything together, right? And then we hired James to come in and prep, and then we started adding people, and we really, at that point, were able to start specializing and start growing. And so Richard was able to step into the role of office manager and wholesale sourcing manager, and then we put people in roles in the warehouse. And as we started to specialize and build that team, we just started blowing up. Hit 2.5 million in 2020 and 3.5 million last year. This year's been kind of a struggle. We're kind of flat, maybe a little down, but we're right on that same pace as last year. And then I have started, this is kind of a separate note, I've started a second Amazon account. Be careful how you do this. If you do it, make sure it's with a separate business entity. It's kind of an experiment to see how fast I could grow in today's environment, how fast I could grow a new business from $0 to $1 million. So that's kind of an ongoing experiment, doing about $10,000 a month right now with that new account. I've got 6 solid wholesale accounts that I've been able to get in the last several months. And so that's income number 12 that's kind of out there on the side. So what did we learn from this experiment? I learned how to evaluate character and what characteristic is important to me in my business. So another little class exercise, if you don't mind. If you could develop only one core character trait in your business, what would it be? So just raise a hand. We're not going to pass the mic around, but raise your hand and just kind of shout it out. One, trust. Persistence. What was it? Integrity. Loyalty. Love it. Anything else? Stick-withiness, maybe? I don't know. Come on. Consistency. I love it. Okay. What is it? Efficiency. Okay. Great. What? Attractiveness. So he hits this one pretty good, right? He's the little pretty boy. He's the face of the business sometimes. So I don't know. He cut his hair, and so it kind of lost its effect. But I'm sorry. Optimism. Love it. Okay. Respect. All right. I love it. So I want to talk about integrity. I love that one. Let's talk about integrity. But why? For me, it's integrity. And here's why. So for me, integrity is about honoring your personal truth. And truth with a small t, not capital T, but what's personally true to you, and about being true to yourself, right? So there's an equation. For me, there's an equation with integrity, and so I'm going to try to explain this the best that I can. But who's familiar with baseball? Have any baseball players in here? Talk to me about batting average, right? What is a batting average? Perfect. The percentage of times that you get up and you get a hit, right? So in baseball, what's considered a good batting average? 300, right? High 2s, low 3s. And what does that mean? That means if you get up to bat 10 times and you hit and get on base 3 out of 10, that's considered really good, right? So to me, integrity is connected to trust, right? So to me, what it means is out of 10 times that I commit to something or I say yes to something, how many times do I follow through, right? So my personal integrity score is, so if I commit to Richard to show up at a certain time or to do something for the business, out of 10 times, how many times am I going to hit that, right? So if you would just kind of think about that, how many times, and it can be anything in your relationships, in your business, out of 10 times, when you commit to do something, how often are you hitting that mark, right? So I like to do this in my hiring, where I try to explain this to them, your commitment level to yourself and to people. And so like personally, like I feel like I'm like an 8 or 9 out of 10. If I commit to do something, I'm going to do it, right? And if something changes along the way where I can no longer do it, I have a standard operating procedure in place to correct that and say, hey, I misspoke, or I misjudged my ability to do this by this time, and either I can't, and here's why, or here's my new expectation, right? So it's not always about saying yes and always sticking to the yes, but sometimes you do have to pivot, right? So I feel I'm an 80% type integrity person, right? And so when I sit down and interview an employee, I try to explain this to them, and I want to know, like, what is their score, right? So in your mind, come up with your own score, and we don't need to share these, right? Are you a 40% person? Are you a 50% person? Are you batting 1,000, right? You sit down and you interview an employee, and you have this conversation with them, and they tell you what their score is. And their score matches your score, right? Are you going to hire that person? I hope so, right? But it depends on what your score is, right? So do you trust yourself? Are you true to yourself enough to where you have a high integrity score, where someone who matches that integrity score with you, you hire them, right? If you're a 4, what type of person are you going to hire? You're a 10? I doubt it. You absolutely do. You do, but if you're a 10, you're going to hire a 10. Right? If you're a 4, you're probably going to hire a 3. Right? If you can't trust yourself because you have a low integrity score, you're going to be attracted to those same type of people. Right? And that's the type of person you're going to hire. A performers hire A performers. Right? B performers hire C and D performers, right? Because they have trust issues with their own personal integrity, and it translates into the people they bring into the business, okay? So how can you increase that integrity, that personal integrity score? Or first of all, stop giving false yeses. Right? We live in a society where we say yes to everything. Hey, can you do this for me? Hey, will you be here? Yeah, I'll be there. And then we don't show up, right? But we say yes in advance, knowing we're not going to do it, right? So stop giving false yeses. Be mindful of those yeses and those nos. Perfection just means adjusting expectations when necessary, right? So if you commit to it and later you can't, don't just not do it. Have a standard operating procedure in place for being able to adjust those expectations. I believe winning is saying yes to the right things, saying no to the wrong things, and honoring myself when I say no. If I can't do it, if I know I can't do it, I'm going to tell you no, right? And that's just my personal integrity, right? So real quick, let's talk about the journey from yes to no to yes. As children, as adults, you guys got kids? Probably most of us have kids here. I've got 3 little kids. I've got a 7-year-old. Yeah, 7-year-old, 9-year-old, 12-year-old. And they're girls, they're this small. But I say no to them a lot, right? And why? I'm trying to teach them, I'm trying to protect them. Don't run in the street. Don't touch that hot thing. Don't do this, right? As parents, we all say no a lot to try to teach them. So as kids, we kind of grow up in a no, 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 no type environment, and especially as teenagers, right? You got teenagers? I don't have teenagers yet, but I remember being a teenager, and I remember being told no a lot. As teenagers, we're in a no environment, and then as we become adults and we start living our own life, we kind of enter this realm of yes, right? Like, can I go do this? Well, mom's not around to tell me no, so yes, right? We see opportunity and we say yes, right? I'm going to go to school. I'm going to start an Amazon business. Like, we live in a world of yes because it's in a world of abundance, right? And so we're used to telling ourselves yes, and it gets to this point where we say yes to a lot of things. And then it can get into this weird phase where it affects our integrity, right? Where we're saying yes when we mean to say no, right? So that switch then is to learn to identify to say yes to good opportunities, good things for us, and then say no where we know we can't commit to it, right? Where it doesn't fit our integrity, doesn't fit our truth. So we just need to create standards for when to say yes, when to say no, and this really applies to business. I think that the most successful people in business long-term, you can have success short-term and have a low integrity score. I believe that. There's plenty of people out there that show that that's possible, right? But to have a high integrity score long-term, those successful people in business long-term have a high integrity score. We have, so a little bit of just kind of an experiment here. Just hands raised. Who still has a regular 9-to-5 job? Okay, about half. And who is full-time entrepreneur? Great, probably a little more than half, probably 60-40. Okay, awesome. So we all can assign ourselves a dollar value per hour, right? If you have a job, if you have an employer, you have a salary or you have an hourly wage, right? So let's say you make $40 an hour, right? As an employee, we should learn to identify our high-value tasks and our low-value tasks, right? So as an employee making $40 an hour, you're probably doing some $10 an hour work, probably doing some $15 an hour work. You're definitely doing some $40 an hour work, because that's what they're paying you to do. But I'll bet you anything you're doing $100 an hour work too, right? You're probably doing $200 an hour work. But as an aggregate, your employer values you at $40 an hour, right? So it's probably going to upset your employer, but find a way to say no to 20% of what you're asked to do. Find a way to say no, and that might be getting an assistant. It might be, if possible, getting a virtual assistant to do some of the stuff for you, right? But those lower value tasks, that $10 an hour job, that $15 an hour job, anything that's less than, I'd say, half of what your hourly wage is, find a way to say no to those things and focus on the higher dollar end, right? If your employer can see that you're now, all of your tasks are $100 an hour jobs, right? $100 an hour tasks, $200 an hour tasks, you're the guy that's going to get that raise to $50 an hour, $60 an hour, versus spending all your time in the $10 to $15 an hour tasks, right? So for entrepreneurs, I believe it's the opposite. I believe it's 80% of what we currently say yes to, we should say no to. And maybe not no as in like we're not going to do that, but no as in like I'm going to miss out or I'm going to delegate. And a lot of that for me is delegate, right? So if I personally feel that my time is worth $200 an hour, if I'm not working on $200 an hour stuff or greater, I'm not going to do it, right? I'm going to delegate or miss out those tasks, right? So the lower dollar stuff, that's why I've got a team. I hire this team and I hire them to do, and I train them to do that lower dollar stuff, and I focus on the higher dollar stuff. And what is that going to do for my business? It's just going to make it grow, right? Because I'm only focused on the high value tasks, right? So someone presents me with an opportunity to make money, and say they come to me and they say, hey, I want to pay you $1,000 to spend 2 weeks with me to train me how to sell wholesale on Amazon, right? For me, is that worth my time? Like it's not, right? So I say no to that, or I delegate it. Those are the only options, right? So if I have other team members that can do that training for me, right, maybe I can say yes to that. But I'm saying yes because I've got a team in place to do it, right? So I hope that made sense. Really understand the value of your time. If you want to live 1,000 lives, don't waste time doing the things you don't want to do. Live by conscious design. That's all I'm trying to express with this. Live your truth and have integrity in what you do. So let's talk about my team, because this is why I'm successful. This right here, this is why I can do what I do, and this is my team. So again, back to Mr. Clough here. He's my rock star. He's my office manager, wholesale sourcing manager, my VA manager. He started off doing a little bit of prep work for me. He started off doing bubble soccer events for me. He doesn't do a lot of bubble soccer or a photo booth anymore. From time to time when I need him, he will. He's now a coach, so he's on my coaching team. So some of you, when you get assigned a coach on my team, some of you get assigned to Richard. He does not have his own personal Amazon business, but he knows more about Amazon than a lot of people, most people I know, right? Like I have taught him everything I know, and he does it very, very well. And now he's become my prep partner. We launched a prep center 3 months ago, and he is an equity partner in that business because of the trust that he has earned with me. So again, like I said, when people come to my 4-day in person, that is the number one feedback, number one response I get is, how do I find a Richard? How do I find my own Richard? So you can't have him, but you have to find your own. And hopefully in this, I'm trying to express how I found him. And, because for me, he's got an incredibly high integrity score for me, right? When he commits to something for me, he's there, he does it. I'll bet his batting average with that is over 900, right? So props to him for that. So under Richard, so Richard runs my team. When I decide to step away and develop a new income stream or step away and go on vacation, he manages the Amazon business for me from top to bottom. I've got my OA/RA sourcing lead / shopper, that's Brad. He also helps with the event business, and he's one of my drivers for Turo. My warehouse manager, Rome, he's definitely my number 2. He runs the warehouse for my Amazon business, and he is the majority owner of our prep center. Rome's awesome, and Rome and Richard are brothers. So I hit a home run with those two guys there. So, and then my buyer / administrative assistant is Alexis. Kind of under Richard and the buyer would be our 3 virtual assistants. Under Rome, we have the warehouse staff. We got the assistant warehouse manager and a few warehouse workers. Some of these warehouse workers are also in the event business and are Turo drivers. But they run everything. Guys, they're trained and specialized in each specific area of the business to be able to run it without me. What I love to do is jump in and learn it first and learn it with them and then teach them and then hand it off completely, right? So currently Brad right now, he's in the middle of taking the OA Simplified course. Him and I are taking it together. I like to learn, even though I'm not going to be the one running the tactical arbitrage scans and doing all that stuff. I want to know it. I want to know it really, really well so that I can help him understand it. But then once we have it, I'm going to hand it off, and I'm not going to touch it anymore, right? Because he's going to do that, and he's going to be assigned that. So, and these guys, honestly, like the sections, the specialties that they have, they learn them so well. Rome is a better warehouse manager than I ever was, right? Like he's so much better than Richard ever was, right? Because he specializes in it, and that's what he does. So this is my amazing team, and they're the ones now in place to help me now build that third and fourth and fifth $100,000 a year income stream. So real quick, I did want to bring in some wholesale value, since that's the focus of my business and the focus of most of my coaching. So real quick, here is, anybody know what an avatar is? I'm sure y'all have seen the movie, but an avatar? Exactly, your target market. I don't know who said that over here, but it's your target market. So in marketing, you want to figure out who your avatar is, who it is that you very specifically want to target and go after them, right? So we create an avatar in wholesale, our ideal wholesale company, and for us, our focus is brand direct. We do go to distributors, wholesalers as well, but we want to go right to the brand, right to the manufacturer. I'll be honest with you, those are the absolute hardest accounts to get, but they are gold. When you get them, they are the best. So that's where we focus. So this is the avatar that we've built in my business for wholesale accounts to target. So we want there to be a minimum of 3 or more FBA sellers on the listing. The reason for this is we want to avoid all private label listings. We want to avoid all listings where the brand is selling it themselves and don't allow other sellers. We definitely want to avoid listings that Amazon is dominating. If the brand is on the listing and there's 2 or more other FBA sellers, we're okay with that. But not if the brand is there by themselves, right? Amazon.com, we really don't want them to be selling it. We look for an in-stock rate of less than 15% in my business. So if Amazon jumps on from time to time for very short periods, we'll consider it. But other than that, we don't like them to be on there. We just feel that they're not a very, they don't play fair, right? So we don't want to compete with them. We're looking for resale values typically between $15 and $150. We have personally experimented with resales above $150, and we're definitely changing our mind about that now. Just you get a return on a $2,000 item, and it hurts for several days. So that's our target, between 15 and 150. We want that product, not brand, we want that product to be making at least $2,000 in revenue a month. We want it to have at least a 3.8 star and above. Often we're going for 4 stars and above because we don't want to deal with products with a lot of returns. We like standard size. We're doing a lot of LTL now, so we'll do large products as well. We've got some good extra large storage space now, actually. So we'll go for the bigger stuff just because we have incredibly cheap shipping rates and the ability to do LTL. But in my coaching, I recommend the standard size products. And then we love to keep an eye out for Keepa charts to indicate MAP. So MAP is minimum advertised price. When you see that price is flat forever, we absolutely love that, right? Like you guys love that in replens too. But we love it in wholesale because we know we're going to have to sign a MAP agreement. We know the brand's going to enforce it, and we know there's never going to be a race to the bottom. So that's what we look at. Now, when we're looking for brands, our brand approach level is we love to find underserved brands. I like to say if you've never heard of the brand, but it's selling well on Amazon, that is your ideal candidate for a wholesale account. In our business, we do look for bigger brands than this, but my recommendation to all my students is under $100,000 in monthly revenue is kind of that mid to smaller size brand that is ideal to go after for wholesale. If you've never heard of the brand, we love to look for oversaturated listings as well that have 20, 30 FBA sellers that have that MAP look, but then it dipped down when more sellers got on it, just so we can have more of a consultation approach to that account. A few days ago, I got a deposit in my bank account for $2,800 from a consulting account that these guys are beautiful, right? Like I set this account up. They came to me 3 years ago. There's a chiropractor that invented a pillow. And he tried selling it on Amazon for a few months and never had any success. And he was just doing FBM. And he had one photo up there. And his bullet point was garbage, right? So he came to me. My employee was actually seeing him a couple times a month. And they got talking about what he did. And so he came to me, met at my office. And I'm like, dude, let's do this. Like, I'm not going to buy your stuff. But let me manage your wholesale account or your Amazon account for you. Right, so give me authorization to go in there and fix your bullet points and send me some better photos. And you got a trademark, like let's get your brand registered. Let's do all these things. Let's actually send it into Amazon, right? And he went from selling, I think he sold 2 pillows in 3 months to now we average 4 pillows a day at $150 a pop, right? And I get a pretty decent commission for that. I set it up 3 years ago. And all I do today is make sure we don't run out of stock. take a look at his ads from time to time. You know, he even manages his customer emails, right? Like he answers all that stuff. So it's a beautiful arrangement when you can find these oversaturated, or even when it's not oversaturated, but these brands that just look like they need help. There's a great opportunity to approach it from a different angle than wholesale. So that's another income stream of mine. So I wanted to throw that wholesale angle out there because Jim always touts me as the wholesale guy. So I quit my job in 2019 and bought a gym. 2 months later, I sold the gym. The gym was a nightmare. The gym caused panic attacks. It was not good for me. So don't be afraid to pivot and change course if a new venture becomes the wrong idea. You realize it's not the right move. I got out of that in 2 months and maybe 3 months, and it was one of the worst 3 months of my life, but it got me out of my job. So I look at it as a great experience. I learned a lot. It just wasn't a good fit. And I got super lucky. I sold the gym like 2 or 3 months before COVID hit. So I really got lucky with that. So income stream number 5, number 6, number 7. We coach now. We do the 4-day in-person wholesale workshop. We cover OA in that workshop as well. We cover, actually the next slide I'll talk about that workshop more. Of course, we have the Proven Wholesale Sourcing course. How many people have taken the wholesale course? A few? Okay. It's in the pack now. So if you have the pack, you have access to it now. It's also available for sale, I guess, individually if you just want to buy it, but it is in the pack for free now if you have the pack. Proven product partnering, I jumped ahead. I talked about that one already, the consulting clients we have. And then affiliate income. My wife has a TikTok with my coaching students. We've got affiliate income, so that's another, it's small, but it's another income stream. Real quick, the wholesale workshop, we're still doing this. If anybody is interested, it's 4 days in Mesa, Arizona. You spend the 4 days with me and my staff. Richard's heavily involved in that coaching. I am, Brad is, Rome. You'll spend 3 or 4 hours in the warehouse with Rome to either learn how to prep your own products properly, or he'll pitch you on our prep center if you're interested in using our prep center. So that's basically what we cover in the 4-day workshop. It's a lot of money, but I guarantee you it's a great experience. I love doing it. My staff loves doing it, and I love the relationships that we've built from it, and looking at the people who have gone through it and the way that it's changed their business. So if that's something that's in the budget, we'd love to have you out. But again, otherwise, like my wholesale course is great as well. You can jump in there for a pretty decent portion of the wholesale stuff. So, and we also talk about building your team. So I love wholesale because, in my opinion, it is the best way to add stability, credibility, and scalability to your business. Replens are great. Jim's not in here, right? Okay. Replens are great. It's a good way to start. I don't want to dog on replens, but I love wholesale. You guys can go out and you can do your OA, you can do your RA, and you can find. So you have a great day and you find 20 replens and it's going to make you a couple $100, right? Well, I don't mean to brag, but Richard found a wholesale account just this last week. And how many SKUs? 12? 12. So my virtual assistant first sent out the email, and then Richard made the phone calls and did the follow-up emails, and we landed the account. And it's 12 SKUs. It's MAP pricing. 16% profit margin across the board, 18% profit margin across the board. We estimate that we'll make $3,500, right? Gosh, I'm off. $3,700 profit a month selling this MAP price product. He spent 3 hours total finding that product, and it's going to do that for me over and over again. We have accounts like that we found 7 years ago that still make me $20,000 in revenue every single month for 7 years at 18 to 20% profit margin. That's why I love wholesale. And we're going to have that product for a long time, right? I love replens, but it really feels like most of these replens last 6 months, right? If you're lucky, a year. So I'm glad Jim and Jimmy aren't in here. I love it. So that's my soapbox for replens, just because of how sustainable and scalable it is. All right, so I still have a little bit of time. This is what I'm super excited about right now. Who's heard of Turo? Lots of you. Who's rented from Turo? Okay, great. Is anybody on the platform as a host? Love it. Yeah, how many cars you got? One. Great. I love it. I'm excited about this stuff. So in February, my wife wanted a new car, and she drives a Range Rover, and it was paid off, and she's had it for a few years, and she's like, let's go get a new car. We've been talking about this Turo thing for about a year. Like, okay, let's not trade it in. Let's not sell it. Let's throw it on Turo. Let's see if it works. And so it's really hard to see. But in February and March was just the one car, our Range Rover, that's paid off, that did just under $3,800 in rental revenue, renting out. So for those of you who don't know, for those of you who don't, Turo is Airbnb for cars. 3,800 in February and March. You're just looking at those 2 months, okay? Turo is Airbnb for cars, right? So we decided to put some of our money in buying some cars. So we tested it out with my wife's car first. We figured if it didn't work, we would just sell it. But it worked, and it worked really well, right? So we're like, okay, let's do it. So what I did is I took myself out completely of my Amazon business, right? Richard will attest to this. I disappeared for 2 months, right? I was at the office, but I disappeared for 2 months, and I did a lot of research on what cars were good, what cars worked, how the platform worked, terms of service, all this stuff. I was able to do this because of my team in place running my businesses, right? So you can see in March, we went from it's so hard to tell right here. It was like 3,400 or something in January, February, March. And then in April, it went all the way up to like 8,500 or something like that. So in April and May, we went from 1 car to 8 cars. And this is kind of how I roll. When I see something works, I just jump in, right? So we went from 1 car to 8 cars. And it was right around $12,000 in whatever month that is, February, March, April, May. So, and then in the summer it gets hot, everything kind of shuts down in the summer. So I'm still very content with the $6,000 to $8,000 we're doing in the summer. I have 3 car loans, monthly expenses of $2,500. And so it's cash flowing for me very, very well. I expect from October through May that with these 8 cars, we can probably do $20,000 to $25,000 in monthly rentals. So we're a power host. So this is something I'm super excited about. And when we get rentals, I just pull my warehouse employees out to go clean, to go drive. Again, like I stepped in really heavy. I learned everything. I bought the cars. I did the high dollar value stuff. And now that that's in place, I've stepped back and I've given it to my employees to go drive the cars and wash the cars, because that's the lower dollar value tasks, right? So again, something I'm super excited about. If you want to know more about it, I could talk about it for hours. These are just some of the cars. We have a couple Land Rovers. I got my BMW, my electric Mustang, a couple of Mercedes, and then my Porsches. So I think, Richard, your favorite's the Porsche, the Macan, the white one. So it's a beautiful car. So anyways, that's another income stream. Probably honestly, my fastest, my easiest, $0 to $100,000 a year income stream. And I absolutely couldn't have done it without the team in place and being able to step out of my business. So we don't need to talk about these much, but income stream number 9 and 10, my real estate Airbnbs that we're starting to get into now. And number 10, pretty excited about, is Easy Rack Prep. So again, back to the integrity score of my employees, Richard and Rome, I trust them so much. They've got such a high integrity score with me that I have made them partners in my prep center, right? So also kind of locked them in, right? They're not going anywhere now that they're partners with me in this, right? So if you guys need a prep center, I know they've been talking about prep centers a lot. So we have a prep center in Arizona. We're catering to wholesale because we are not in a tax-free state, right? So if you're wholesale, you're tax exempt, we can prep cheaper than most of those tax-free states can. But it's a cheaper per unit price. So that's why we're kind of focused on wholesale. We do RA, we have low minimum, so reach out to us if you're looking for a prep center. I won't spend too much time with that shameless plug, but and then stock investing, and my wife's got some cool things going. So I love my wife. She's been able to step out of the business. So speaking of valuing my time, do you think I value my wife's time as much or less or equal to than mine? What do you guys think? Adam, how do you value your wife's time? Is it less than yours? Yeah. Oh, shoot. Oh, wrong person. Ooh. I hope it's at least equal, right? It's at least equal. So I'm not doing any of those low-value tasks myself, right? So I don't want my wife doing any of those low-value tasks either, right? So I hope it doesn't come off as snobby or anything, but I've hired house cleaners to clean my house, right? I've hired yard guys to do my yard just because so I can focus on that. And so my wife can focus on what she wants to do. And it doesn't have to be income generating. For her, it's these things that she just loves doing. She's got a TikTok. She's got 80,000 followers. She loves it. She got this comedy page. It has nothing to do with business. But she's part of the TikTok Creators Fund and makes $2 a day, right? It's nothing, but she loves it. It's fun, right? And she's able to do that because of how we've set up our business. And she's got an Etsy shop where she creates photo booth layouts for other photo booth owners. So she'll create them for ourselves, she'll throw them in the shop, and then other photo booth owners will buy them for their events and stuff. So it's not much, but it's all these little tiny income streams. They may be small individually, but they really add up to quite a bit. So closing thoughts, I got just a few minutes here. My belief, and we can't start here, but I do believe we should work to get here, depending on your goals, right? But I believe that we should always work to own a business and not operate in it, right? And this is how I have removed myself from operating in my business. And again, I'm not making 100% of all the income anymore in any one of my businesses. But 50%, 60% of all of these businesses is a lot more than 100% in all these small ones, right? Or whatever. So successful people own businesses. They don't own business or a business. They own multiple businesses. With the solid core of leaders and employees in my business, I'm able to bolt down new revenue streams as they come up, and kick out the ones that I don't like, that don't work, that stress me out, but bolt down the ones that do work, focus on them very intensely, usually for a period of a month or 2 or 3, and then learn to put a team and train a team around those that can continue to build them up and grow them for me. So because of their integrity standards, wealth continues to expand for successful people. So I challenge you to have a perfect integrity score or work towards a perfect integrity score by evaluating your yeses and nos. Say yes to the right things. Say no when you should say no. Find joy in the perfection of following through with your yeses, and find joy in saying no to commitments you weren't going to follow through with anyways. So that's my pitch. I am a huge advocate of building a team. I love my guys and gals that work for me. They really have helped me get to where I am, and I cannot express enough how thankful I am for what they do for me. So, Richard, thank you. Thank everybody else, and thank you guys for your time today. We have a little bit of time, not much, and we can go until they tell us to stop or until we run out, but we have time for questions. Richard, you got the mic? We got a couple questions over here. You got right down here. Make sure you got it turned on. Got it turned on. It's on.
Hi, Carolyn C.J. Matthews from Las Vegas. The question of finding out people's integrity as you hire them, is it a hit and miss for you? Do you have specific questions that you ask? How do you get that integrity score when you're hiring somebody?
It's a hit and miss. It really is. We like to do a 2-week trial period, right? So first of all, my wife is a much better judge of character than I am. So I will conduct the interview, but I'll ask my wife to come sit in with it, right? And she'll ask questions if she wants to, and she feels like she's got questions come up. I'll ask most of the questions, but she'll sit and she'll observe. and then I will consult with her because I trust too much, I think, right? Like I'm just a naturally trusting person, right? And so I definitely include my wife because she's a great judge of character. But a big part of it too is our 2-week trial period. They know during that 2 weeks that it's just a trial. We're going to Venmo or Cash App their wages. And it's not till 2 weeks until we actually make them a W-2 employee. Or in the case of some of my event stuff, it's 1099. But the 2-week trial period, I think, helps us weed out and get to know those people a little bit better. But we've had instances, my first buyer, she was stealing time from me and clocking in from home and doing some shady stuff. So I think you need to do your best to evaluate, run a good trial period, slowly hire, and then fire quickly, right? Like if they're bad, get them out, right? So, that help? Oh, yeah. All right, next question, right here.
So you mentioned that when you send inventory in, I always have this problem where I get it when you want to kind of spread it all over the country, but the numbers with Amazon I can't ever drill it down. I used to be like 30 or more, and then it sends it to one warehouse, and then it spreads out from there, but now it just seems to be all over the place. Like I'll only send 5, and it's still sending the 5 to the one warehouse. Have you figured that out? Is there like a set number, or does that change all the time? In other words, after you send X amount of units, it goes to one warehouse, regardless of the setting you have for fulfillment, whether it's distributor or the other one. I just can't get it right, because I want to spread it out to the different warehouses, because I know if it goes to the one warehouse, then you got to wait for it to jump to the other ones.
Sure.
But have you figured that out?
Okay. We have absolutely no control over that.
Yeah.
Right? I think the only control we have is sending in enough to where it should get spread out.
Okay, so just the high number.
Just the higher number,
that's what
right?
you mean.
And
Got
don't go crazy with it, right? Some people think I'm a little aggressive, right? And I definitely am. And I think I've had conversations with Abe, right? Abe agrees with me, right, on this. No, maybe it's not Abe. I'm going to throw you under the bus here because maybe it wasn't the conversation I had with you. It was Anthony. I'm sorry. I had a conversation with Anthony. I'm sorry. Anthony agrees with me on this. But so in replens, we're taught to send in 2, 3, 5, right? I like to evaluate what I think it sells in a month, right? And I use the different tools that we have access to. Then I take a look at how the buy box has been rotating, and I get a percentage of what I feel I will get, and it's totally an estimate, right? So let's say it's selling 100 times a month. The buy box is rotating between 3 dominant sellers, right? I'm going to be the 4th, right? So I believe I can sell 25% of it. So that's 25 times a month, right? I'm going to send in about 12. I'm going to send in half of what I think I can sell in a month, right? And that might be too much. That might sit there for 2 months, right? But oftentimes it sells out 2 weeks. Right, but my opinion is that if we send in 12, we get a really good
feel for
representation because my inventory got spread out better. I get a better feel for how much you can really sell, right? Because I might send in 3, and it might be because I'm in Arizona, so I might sit there on the West Coast, and it takes me a whole month to sell those 3 because all my buyers are on the East Coast,
on it.
right? And it just didn't get spread out,
right?
And it'll take me 6 months of testing to figure out what my quantity is. Where when I test the way I test, I feel like in 2 months, I got it dialed down. I know how many I need. So that's my philosophy. We got a question right up here front.
Yeah, I guess my question is, as far as the integrity score, is that to another person or to yourself? And their meaning by that is, if I tell you something, I'm at a 9.5. If there's any way possible, it's going to be done. To myself, I'm probably at about a 4. So it's always changing.
Yep.
So
I think it's both, right? I think there's definitely both aspects to it, right? I think you're probably right. I think we're all probably in that same spot where we're 90 to 100% in our commitments to our family, to our work associates, our employees, right? We're not as good to ourselves, right? So I think that's something that we all have to work on. I think it's a separate task, but I think once you can master yourself, you can get yourself to a 70 or an 80 on your personal integrity score, and that's really when you see some really some really cool stuff. So, question back here, Richard.
Do you use an AI repricer, or do you feel that leads to a race to the bottom?
So we use Aura, and we use manual settings. I'm not a fan of AI quite yet. I think I'm gonna trial these guys. What was it, SellerSnap out front here? I think I might trial that. But right now we use Aura. We use My Rules. What I do to try to combat the race to the bottom is, one, I never price below anybody else, right? I'm matching or going above. But the biggest thing that we do, I think, is our workflows inside of Aura, where 4 times a day at, trying to think, 12:30 a.m., 6:40 a.m., maybe it's 12:40 p.m., it doesn't matter, right? But 4 times a day, I'm turning these workflows on, and what it does is it pauses all repricing at the last 15 or 20 minutes of the hour, just in case I had the buy box that hour. I want to maximize my time in the buy box that hour. Last 15, 20 minutes of the hour, it's going to pause all repricing, and it's going to raise my price 10%. It's going to hold it there for the 10 to 15, 20 minutes, whatever my setting is, and then it's going to turn my repricer back on. And if nobody changed price, it's going to go right back to where it was. But the hope is you and I are competing. My price goes up 10%. Your repricer says, oh, I can maximize my margins now. If it's got AI or it's got a rule built in to say bump it up. So I'm hoping you go up 5% or 7% or even 10%, so that when my repricer turns on, it stays right there. Right? We've added 3% net margin to my business since we started doing that. Right? At $3.5 million, that's some pretty good money. Right? So that's my strategy. So pause pricing at least 2 times a day. Increase it. We're only paused for 10, 15 minutes. Turn it right back on. It's not going to matter that much if you lose the buy box for that 10 to 15 minutes, but it'll make a huge difference in maximizing your margins. So.
Okay. You also say don't lower your price. And so do you,
I say that because the vast majority of Amazon sellers don't understand how the buy box works.
Yeah.
Right? If you lower your price, as long as it's within my min-max, my repricer is going to lower my price to match it. Right? But I'm not going to be the guy that lowers the price to win the buy box. You know, you're priced at $15, I'm not going to just go in at $14 because that's what you need to do to win. No, let's share the buy box at the same price. Like, I'm happy for that to be as high as it can be, but whatever it is you set it at, that's what I'm going to set it at. Don't lower the price versus what your competition is at. That's what I mean by that. No.
Great.
What's that? Yes, match the price. Exactly. Match the price. Don't lower it from where they're at.
Right. I use SellerSnap. They're great. I just couldn't afford them, though.
They're expensive, yes. We got one in the back here, and I think we're kind of out of time, so we're about 10 minutes over.
Hi, great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
My question is regards to Turo.com. Do they have similar tools like Keepa? How did you do your research over there in terms of the cars? Because I see a lot of Teslas, Slingshots, you know.
Honestly, that's a long conversation. I'm willing to have that with you, but
Sure.
we'll have to have that offline.
Okay.
But currently there's no tools.
No tools.
Right,
Okay.
there's very few tools. I would love to develop a Keepa of some sort for Turo.
Yeah.
I've thought of it. But it's mostly manual, just going in there, seeing people's reviews, seeing how many times cars have gone out, and just figuring it out. So, I'll have that conversation with you if you want, but for this group and for our time, it's probably not the right place.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right, guys, thanks for coming. Have a great couple of days.